Peace, good morning. Today is Wednesday. We are halfway there, hump day, as some people like to call it. I wonder where did hump day come from? What timeline was hump day created? I don't know. I'm just asking. It's weird for it to be hump day. Whatever. Today is Wednesday. Today is the last Wednesday of January. But that doesn't mean it's over. That's just mean that you'll get another Wednesday in February. But it depends on how you see it. It depends on how you think it, and it depends on how you react to it and how you and what you absorb with it. So, again, we always start in gratitude. We always start with appreciation. We always start with reciprocity. So, the viewers that are watching right now in Facebook world, good morning. I say to you, and good morning is how you can reply and react to what I'm saying. So let's absorb this energy and let's transcend. Let's go back and forth and just build and get bigger and better and greater with who we are and what we do. So everyone that's watching on Facebook side, I appreciate you and everything that you do. And when you continually come back, I appreciate it. Miss Vina, 2 days. All right, Miss Berry, how you doing, ma'am? And those that are watching on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. Pass this channel on to somebody else. And if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you also follow Consistency is Currency podcast. We also have a Facebook podcast page. And those that are listening in the podcast space, whether you're listening on Google, listening on Facebook podcast, or you're listening on Apple, or you're listening on iHeartRadio, wherever you are, we're going to bring it in today. And today we're going to be talking about the power of 6,000. Like, man, what in the world is the power of 6,000? The power of 6,000 is really, good morning, Miss Salinas, is the power of thought. That's all it is the power of thought. Because a new study came out last year. They said that the average person, now it's whether you see yourself as average or above average or not, they said the average person create at least 6,000 thoughts a day, or roughly between 6,200 thoughts a day. So a little bit over 6,000 thoughts a day is what one person actually creates. So my question to you is, where are your thoughts? How are you thinking? How are you processing things? Because if you have over 6,000 thoughts a day, then what are you doing throughout the day, and how positive or how negative are your thought processes? So 6,000, you have 6,000 thoughts a day, but what are you doing in your world that allow your thoughts to actually fuel what you're going to do? All right, I'm gonna get off of that. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We already talked. We go into the definition and then we bring it back forward into the topic of discussion. So the power of 6,000 is the power of your thoughts, because the new study came out in 2020 that the average person thinks up to 6,000 times a day. There are over 6,000 thoughts that a person processes throughout the day. So the definition of thought. Now, we're going to give you two definitions or maybe three definitions. Then I'm going to give you the 2022 version of thought, because sometimes we don't update definitions. I don't know why, but I do. I like to update definitions because we change, we evolve. I mean, you may have liked peanut butter and jelly sandwiches when you were a child, but as an adult, you don't like it. So why do definitions stay the same? There is an evolution of change. So why not? How come definitions can't change? But I'm going to give you a new definition of thought. All right, so the power of 6,000 is the power of thoughts, the power of your thoughts. So again, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Share this on your feed. I'm gonna stop saying that. I really don't like sometimes when people say it all the time, all the way through the live. All right, so the definition of thought is the action or process of thinking. And definition number 2 is careful consideration or attention. And number 3 is that which formed in the mind. So where are you going with this? So I'm going to give you a new definition. I'm taking all 3 of those definitions and I'm creating a new 2022 definition of thought. So my definition of thought, by merging all three of those, is the process of careful considerations that is formed in the mind. So your thoughts are careful considerations formed in your mind. The process of careful consideration that is formed in your mind, as you can see, the highlights are in red, not in white. The highlights is the process, careful considerations, and formed in the mind. And then you see the white where it has of that is. Because when you say I am this, remember it has to come from something. Of that is. The process of thought is of that is, because it has to have an origin. Where does the origin of your thoughts come from? Because it comes from in the mind. It is formed in the mind. So that is your of that is. So when you're figuring out, man, where is my child getting this from? Of that is. Where and what and how is the mind processing those things? So the new definition of thought is the process of careful considerations that is formed in the mind. The of that is. So when you're thinking about those over 6,000 thoughts today, of that is come from your thoughts inside of your head. So the first thing that you have to know and understand is your thinking shapes your today. Because if you have 6,000 thoughts a day, it shapes your thinking today. It shapes your day. It shapes what you do. It shapes where you go. It shapes what you say. It shapes who you are around. It shapes the places that you find yourself in. So what type of thinking are you doing within those 6,000 thoughts that are doing those things that are positive to you? And how are you creating that? Because that is your of that is. Because again, the way you think now can shape your today. And then the next thing you have to understand, your thoughts can reshape your tomorrow. So you're going to have to promote healthy thought habits. You're going to have to pay attention to those negative thinking traps. Because when you pay attention to those negative thinking traps, that begins the process of you understanding your of that is. Where, how come I feel this way when I get inside of this setting? That's your of that is. Where did that come from? Where is the origin of those thoughts? Where are the origin of those emotions? Where is the origin of the of that is? Because you have to pay attention to those thinking traps that you may find yourself in. And when you do it, that's when you begin to promote those healthy thinking habits. So I'm going to give you two questions that I want you to pay attention to. And when you get to these, and when you begin to think about these questions and you're asking yourself these questions, then you're going to begin to be able to dissect your of that is, where are the origin of your thoughts. So the very first thing I want you to do is, what am I thinking about? You know, like some of us who have kids and you said, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking about? Because you want to begin to learn what are the processes of thought that your child is having. But a lot of times we as adults don't even ask ourselves that question. So my question is, what am I thinking about? And when you're doing that, what am I thinking about in that question to yourself, begin to label those thoughts. What am I thinking about? Okay, these thoughts happens when I'm planning. These thoughts, I'm worrying when I think this way, or I'm organizing when I'm doing these things, and my thoughts are organizing my processes, or I'm daydreaming, or I'm judging when I'm thinking this way. Because you're going to have to begin to learn how to steer or pivot steer when you're thinking about certain things and when you're thinking about those ways, because now you're tapping into the the way that you think. So my planning looks like this. I'm worrying when I feel this way because my thoughts are fueling those things that I'm thinking about. And then the next thing you're stepping into is this actually happening right now? Those thinking traps. Is this really happening right now? Like you have a friend that calls you, they're always calling you about a problem, and They feel like the world is less crashing around them. Ask them a simple question. Is that really happening right now? If it's not physically happening right now, then it's something that you are mentally making up. If it is happening right now, then you take action on that thing. But if it is not happening right now, you have to understand, is it really taking you into the past, or are your thoughts taking you into the future? So is this really happening right now? Ask yourself that question. Teach your children this particular question right here too. Is this really happening right now? No. Okay. Are your thoughts taking you in the past, or is this thought taking you into the future? Because you can't say, "Oh, I'm just gonna pray about it and let it go." Yeah, right. After you said that, you still are putting your hands on it. You're still trying to reshape it. If you say you're gonna let it go, let it go. If that thought is taking you in the past, you're not letting it go. Because is this really happening right now? And the last thing that I want you to pay attention to and really understand is that your thoughts fuel your consequence. You can't blame it on everybody all the time. You can't, because a honest place is an honest space. Honest space is inside of your mind. Your honest space is where you are when you're in your quiet place, when you're thinking, or when you're in that space when you're understanding what is going on. Because again, remember, is this really happening right now? If it's not really happening right now, so my thoughts is fueling my consequence. So if I go into this space and whatever happens when I get in this space, I have to really know that the of that is came from how I fueled my thoughts. So don't judge yourself or label those thoughts as good or bad. Instead, identify those thoughts and just understand that you may have just been curious at that moment, but it is making you that much more self aware when you are thinking about those things in those particular times, in that particular moment. But again, ask yourself, is that thought that I'm having right now, is it taking me back into the past, or is those thoughts that I'm creating real, or is it taking me into the future? Because if it is not taking you into the future, why do you want to continue to think that way? And why do you feel that those thoughts are healthy? Because if you're not creating those healthy habits, you will always create that space of detriment. You always will create that space to where you feel that woe is me. You feel like everybody is always against me. Is that true? Is that really happening right now? That could just be in your head. That could just be with how you process that thought. Because if it's not really happening, then maybe you need to change the way that you think to create a much more healthier thinking habit. And when you figure out and become literate uh, with the way you think, I mean, you want to have financial literacy classes, but you don't want to have thought literacy classes. Where are you thinking? How are you thinking? What are you thinking? And now you have to look at it from this perspective too. What am I feeding myself? What type of healthy content am I feeding myself in the morning? What type of music am I feeding myself? What type of book am I feeding myself? What places am I finding myself in that feeds into the future me? What locations am I putting myself in that actually feeds into the future me, that feeds into that healthy thought habit that I want to create? If you're not listening, or if you're not speaking, or if you're not around people that are speaking into your healthy habits and your healthy thought habits, then you're speaking to people that are ripping the blessings away from you because you allow yourself to be in that setting. Again, your thoughts fuel the consequence. You can't blame someone what happened in the room when you knew you wasn't supposed to be in that room to begin with. There is a level that you have to have where you are accountable for the things that happen, because you should be accountable for your thoughts. And I'm going to leave you with this last thing. So For those that are in this area, in the clean area, Baba Tunde said, "To whom you give your money to is to whom you give your power." So I flipped that into where we are right now and what we're talking about when we're speaking about your thoughts. And yesterday we talked about, energy, your emotions, your energy in motion. So I flipped it in today and say to what you give your energy to, because a lot of times you give energy to stuff that you know you shouldn't give energy to. And the energy that you're giving to this thing may be the detriment to the thoughts that you're having that's tearing everything around you, that you're now affected by the consequences of the energy that you gave that thing. So to what you give your energy to, from whence you get your power. Remember the of that is. If you're giving your thoughts positive and good things and a positive energy, and reading the right things, reading things that feed into your belief system, your, whether it is spirituality, whether it is, just thinking happy thoughts and things of that nature, that's your of that is. The things that you gave energy to is from whence you get your power. That's the power of thought. Stop blaming it on people. A lot of times it could be you. So that's it. But I want you to understand that, again, from whence you get your power. What are you looking at? We had a podcast like maybe about a month ago, month and a half maybe. It was called 2% Environment. 2% Environment is the 2% of your day, is the first 28 minutes of your day. What are you feeding yourself within the 2% of your day? If there are 6,000 thoughts a day, 2% of your day is the first 28 minutes. What are you doing in the first 28 minutes that feed into the rest of your day? If there are 24 hours in a day, the first 28 minutes of your day should be yours. You shouldn't be sharing that sometimes. Sometimes you got to be in that quiet place, in that quiet space, to where the first 28 minutes are mine. Whether I'm listening to music that's feeding those healthy thought habits, or I'm reading something, or I'm watching videos that feed into my healthy thought habits, or I'm working out that is giving me energy, allowing that blood to flow and feeding into my muscles that are giving me those healthy thought and healthy physical habits. Take back time. Time is not something that you should be giving away. But time is something that you should hold close hold to you. 2% of your day is the first 28 minutes of your day. When you get up in the morning, what are you doing in the first 28 minutes? Stop checking your text message the first 28 minutes. Stop reading your emails in the morning the first 28 minutes. Stop checking your Facebook Messenger in the first 28 minutes. Why? Because the things that you put in front of your eyes really can begin to absorb inside of your psyche, or absorb inside of your thoughts. Because what if you get up in the morning, you look at that text message or that email, and it's bad news? Now you're absorbed and you're feeling that for the rest of your morning. So now you're trying to shake something that you didn't even have to shake. Put yourself in that space. Allow the armor around your brain to hold close hold and protect yourself away from the outside elements. So manage the first 28 minutes of your day, because if you think or have 6,000 thoughts and over 6,200 thoughts a day, manage the thoughts that you have. That's all I want to have. That's all I have for you right now. All right. Hey, you guys be blessed. Make sure you share this with someone, because there are people out there that do not know how to manage their thoughts, and they don't know how to manage their expectations. Because remember, it's the of that is. What is the origin of your thoughts? The processes, the careful considerations. And remember, it comes from within. But what's the origin of that is? Y'all be blessed. Hey, share this with someone and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. It's Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency.